Welcome back to SL. Chennai Speaks Out. Monsoon woes, nature's fury or government apathy. That's the topic, and it's on to our second round called cross-examination. To team one first, to Dr. Karthikeyan, the Corporation Commissioner. So why is it that people dig up roads just before the monsoon? Why is it that every time a new road is laid, almost with a vengeance, some other government department comes and digs it up? Why is it that there's zero intergovernmental cooperation and coordination, sir? There are several people who go on roads and they get spinal cord injuries because of the bad roads. Many say that the roads are literally the pits. I know 7.5 crore rupees has been allocated to repair roads, but a corporation engineer who didn't want to be named, I spoke to before the show, said that if only they provide service ducts, then you won't really have to dig up roads every time you need some kind of maintenance work, either from the electricity board or Metro Water.
We do have service ducts in some parts of our roads, but not in all the roads. But it's our corporation's desire to have ducts in all the roads, but it might take some time to have everything in place. I wouldn't agree with you that, as if other departments conspire and go and dig the roads. Whenever there is a need, electricity board or Metro Water do dig up the road with our permission. We do have a coordination committee which sits every month to decide whether to give permission on certain sections of the road to dig it up or to give it permission to permit for laying the EB line or giving a water supply connection to somebody who has built a house.
People pay road cutting charges, sir?
They do pay road cutting charges.
All right. To Mr. Nirmal next. Many experts believe that if only stormwater drains are desilted properly before the monsoon, you won't really have waterlogging that we witness today. That people won't need boats to go to offices or schools and colleges.
No, I fully agree, but stormwater drainage being desilted, the most important thing, it has a specific function, and there should be punishment on people who dump their waste into the stormwater drainage. And even people who do building construction, you can see debris all lying. I think prevention is better than cure. This is what I would like to say.
All right. Debatable as to who gives them sanction and permission to build in the first place. Dr. Karthikeyan, to you next. The focus on monitoring minor aspects, like for instance, these are technical aspects, avoiding overheating of bitumen to lay roads easily, removal of encroachments, provision of surface drainage and unadulterated mix for roads. In fact, building debris is often used to fill up potholes, not an approved filling material. It's not an approved filling material is what experts believe.
Building debris are not used as a permanent measure. See, when it rains, I can't be doing the patchwork during the monsoon time. Just to weed away the problem, temporarily we do use the building material, the construction debris to fill up the potholes temporarily. In all these places, we will be taking up a massive road relaying work or attending the patchwork after the monsoon gets over. I'm sure, I can assure to the Chennai citizens that before February 2011, you will see all the roads in a much better condition than what it exists today.
Also, that's before elections. All right, Mr. M.B. Nirmal, canals across the city are often choked with encroachments, and the government has, of course, allowed these encroachments. Government itself is an encroacher in many cases. Now, for instance, Adambakam, Alandur, Nanganallur, Tirusulam. Now, in 2003, a report by the Slum Clearance Board and the Public Works Department said that there were 31,540 families on the banks of the Adia River alone. I can go on and on with further statistics, but we've got a doctorate in statistics, so I don't want to really take him on that. But clearly, when it comes to encroachments, you go and encroach in water bodies. What happens then?
Yeah, this is a real question, but the point is you also should look at the humanitarian angle. They can't be dislocated. Whenever these things happen, when people were taken out of their natural habitat or occupied habitat, the whole family is like uprooted tree. You have to look from that viewpoint also. They have to be provided alternate accommodation. They need not sit on the, what you call, Kuvam banks. See, India's problem, major problem, poverty.
In Chennai, we have now, the government has a Chennai River Restoration Trust headed by our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister. And we are now surveying all the slum dwellers who are living near the Kuvam or in any other near any other water body. We are not going to throw them away. The government is going to rehabilitate them in multi-storied slum clearance board dwellings. So all these people will definitely be rehabilitated. Once they are rehabilitated, their huts will be removed, and we will clean up the whole place and widen the Coombe River. That will solve the problem to a large extent.
All right, I can almost see fire in Nityanand's eyes, but we'll come to you. You can take one in actually the next round. Final question to you, sir. The mosquito menace. Unless you call up some top official of the corporation, then they come and do token spraying and fogging. I don't know how many people, show of hands, how many people actually, how many of you have had fogging in your residences? Show of hands. Regularly? Okay, quite a few people have, but a majority haven't. Why is that we cannot really, to a large extent, do away with mosquitoes, sir? Also, there can be no excuse for drinking water to be mixed with sewage. I know technically that doesn't come under your domain. Also, the frequent power cuts. Today, most people go in for inverters. Yes, we give free TVs, but we don't give uninterrupted power supply.
About the mosquito menace that you asked, it can be controlled by two means. The first thing is prevention. So we spray what we call as the mosquito sprayer.
Sorry to interrupt. In fact, this is a personal observation and what many others have also told me, because I'm also a tax-paying citizen. Many people say that after the spray, soon after the spraying is done, more mosquitoes come. Is that true? Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what you said is true or not. Anyway, I can. So we do spray the medicines in all our stormwater drains regularly. We have a weekly program that's being monitored by various levels in the corporation, and we also do an intensive fogging in the evenings. For the past 3 weeks, we have been doing an intensive fogging operation on every Friday. Even yesterday, there was an intensive fogging operation throughout the city. So this we will continue till the monsoon gets over, till February, and we will definitely try to control the mosquito menace.
All right. Thank you very much, Team 1. On to Team 2, and I'll go first to Raj Cherubal. What can you do? Like there have been occasions like in 2005, 26th October, when you had 21 centimeters of rain in just 2 hours. And you have, the Corporation Commissioner says 963 kilometers of stormwater drains. Sometimes even that is not enough. I think it can, what I'm told is it can hold about 21 centimeters of rain a day. But if it happens in 2 hours, what can you do? And secondly, you have to rely also on other departments like the Met Office, which doesn't always get its forecast right. Because I have observed that in the last 14 holidays that were declared for schools, the sun began to shine brightly. Whenever you give a holiday for schools, you close schools, the sun shines. Right? Right? Okay.
We cannot keep thinking we are in a village and live in a modern city and hope to be a superpower and hope to be a world-class city. Do you want to be a world-class city? You have to spend money, you have to get the experts, you have to fix up the system, whether it's meteorological department or otherwise. And including Niti's point, today, for example, he talks about every activist like me likes to talk about public participation. Yeah? Today, in a
all right, I'll come to public participation.
Quickly, I'll make a point. One councillor has about 30 to 40,000 people in the ward. How do you expect a councillor in a democratic country to deal with 30 to 40,000 people's problem?
All right, let me bounce that off to Niti and add a supplementary question as well. Now, the corporation has come up with since you spoke about public consultation and participation, I think in each ward they've got about 10 citizens in all the 155 odd wards. They have about 10 citizens, common citizens from residents' welfare associations to actually act as an advisory body. How this is working on the ground, we'll have to really wait and see. But at least there is that initiative taken.
Yeah, I think that any initiative in that direction is a welcome initiative. I think that a lot more can be done. I think that unfortunately our bureaucracy, with no offense to Dr. Karthikeyan over here, has lost the ability to actually relate to people. There are many, many innovative ways. Holding public consultations in different places. I mean, at the end of the day, how do you run a democracy? You run a democracy by finding innovative ways of going and seeking out the opinion of the last man on the street or the last woman on the street. That you can't just say, okay, fine, put in place a committee. Their recommendations will be taken into consideration, because what happens is when you oppose very seriously, the severe opposition, you're made to be part of a committee. And that's the end of your opposition. That's the end of anything that might be in the form of a meaningful consultation. So I think that needs to be taken care of. Like, you know, when you're doing a beach beautification, why don't you consult the people? What is the meaning of beauty? The meaning of beauty can't be the meaning of beauty in one person's head. It has to be what the people how people are using it.
Fair enough. Raj next. See, no one really wants to cut trees, but there are times when you will have to, for instance, precariously perched trees, dangerous trees as they call them in corporation parlance. Recently, there was a tragedy. More than 110 people have died so far in the monsoon, in the northeast monsoon this year in Tamil Nadu alone. And there was a tragedy in the Nageshwara Rao Park in Mylapore where a tree fell on a man, killing him. So whenever the corporation goes to cut trees before the monsoon, you will have activists, at least a section of people, who will be up in arms.
So again, ask yourself, over the years, what trees were planted? Every city would have codes and standards of even a sophisticated city even tells you where the tree should be. It can't be just some NGO or some citizen going and planting tree all over and planting the wrong species. If you ask some of my activist friends, including I'm sure Mr. Nirmal, there are trees which should not be planted in Chennai, there are trees which should be planted in Chennai. This is no different from what I was telling before. Whether it's the width of the road, whether it's the width of the footpath, these are all standards and engineering, sophisticated thinking, and it can't be done overnight. So my point is, if you plant the wrong tree, the wrong place, it will fall on somebody's head. If you plant a tree that can't withstand the whatever northeast, southeast, whatever monsoon, it will fall. So there are standards for the city. There are tree committees and the tree authorities, etc., etc. If you don't have that, we will have next year also we will have tree falling somebody's head. So my point is, we have to build the capacity of the system to do all these things we are talking about.
All right.
Just on the aspect of the trees, I think that there's also, tamarind trees are very, very sturdy and very hardy. And those trees are being choked. In my community, in Besanagar, Urukupam area, the tamarind trees are completely paved. There is no room for water to seep in. Over a period of time, the trees weaken and they will claim lives.
All right, fair enough. Also, next question to you now. The average load we are told of the sewage system is 460 million liters a day. But 620 million liters of sewage and rainwater comes up during the monsoon. How do they actually manage the load? Also, the corporation is taking enough precautions, we are told, in terms of periodic maintenance of 186 pumping stations in the city. So a lot of work is being done.
Sure, a lot of work is being done. I'm not saying that these are people who are sitting idle, otherwise, they would be finding time to go home. What I mean to say is that they're causing a problem and running behind trying to solve it. You said that, we have enough, even all the stormwater drains that we have will not be able to take 21 centimeters of rain. But 6,000 hectares of Pallikarnai marshland, a well-integrated, well-connected network of lakes and tanks would be able to take that load. The 21 centimeters was not unprecedented. It has happened before, in 2 hours, has happened before. And a meteorological friend of mine, one Dr.
No,
S.
not in
Raghavan.
Chennai in the last 100 years, we are told.
What?
21 centimeters of rain in 2 hours in Chennai.
In 2 hours, okay. But 21 centimeters in a day has happened before.
Okay.
Yeah? So I think that what we have done is we've dismantled our natural systems that are there to take care of the load. And we're trying to put in place artificial system, engineering systems, and that I think does only one thing, it keeps engineers in the employ.
Chlorination is done by the corporation, and they've even increased the dosage, A. And B, as far as the electricity board is concerned, they've raised the height of the transformer and the pillar boxes, so you don't have to, whenever there's waterlogging or inundation beyond a particular point, you don't have to necessarily switch off the power as a precautionary measure.
See, again, let me step back and ask you this. I challenge any citizen of India to go and find a piece of diagram in any city in India, that tells you where the electricity box is supposed to be, how high that electricity box is supposed to be, where that stormwater drain entrance is supposed to be. When Niti makes fun of engineers, my point is we are not anymore living in a primitive little society. So my point is, you may say chlorine 2 parts per million, I'll say 4 parts per million.
They're saying.
No, I'm not saying. The point is, citizens will say all kinds of things. He may say the tree should be here, I may say the electricity box should be there. Point is, this is not how you can deal. And one of the points a lot of activists make is, when the systems don't work, we start blaming ourselves. We say citizens should take more responsibility, citizens should do this and that. Do any one of you know what is the right answer for any of the questions that was asked here? How much chlorine should be used? Where should the tree be? When the tree should be cut down? What do you do around the tree? This is not the citizen's job. Only in India, as an Indian citizen, I've realized this. I've been to many countries, many cities. Only in India I get insulted as a citizen. I'm told it's all my fault. Activists, I'm not even blaming the officials. Officials actually make a very bend over backwards to say, look, this is a democracy, citizen must be. We activists are blaming ourselves and are blaming citizens. I cannot, if you don't give me a place to urinate, I will urinate where I can. If you don't give me a proper lane, I will drive on the lane. If you don't give me a footpath, I'll walk on the road. What do you want me to do? To buy cement, buy concrete and build my own footpath, my own urination facilities? So my point is, you're asking questions of a citizen. Let's assume I'm not an expert in anything. I don't know the answer.
All right,
It's
fair
not
enough.
my
We don't know
job.
the answers. We'll try and get more answers after a short break. But since you mentioned urinating in public, I think India has the dubious distinction of having more mobile phone connections than public toilets. But more coming up on our next round called Crossfire. Stay tuned.